G'day folks, welcome back. Let's go through what's behind this keyboard. So we've got the mic lines and input. So it's got the bigger jack and the standard smaller jack. Then we have the left-right outputs. We have a place for our SD cards and the USB to MIDI host cable. And then we have the old school 5-prong MIDI in and out, as well as 3 pedal controllers, which is what sold me. So we've got the damper, blurry, the switch and the pedal. So you can use a foot switch, expression pedal, sustain. Yay. I wanted to take you through the Korg Kross 2 today. So what I'll be doing is showing you a bit of the sounds, some of the features, and maybe we'll set up a sequencer and have some tracks layered through there. What I'll start with is, I guess, the piano sounds. In total there are 73 acoustic piano sounds. I'm more of a fan of the Kross Grand Piano 2, and it sounds something like this. A couple of real-time controls that we can have here. So we have our cutoff, resonance, attack and release, those standard filters. And then we have reverb, and we can obviously set the tempo just by tapping as we like. So it's a really nice feature. And so if you wanted to, say, change the cutoff, we would go into here and select that knob and resonance, and then we have attack and release. That's at full, and then we have immediate attack, and so on and so forth. I guess honky tonky is probably not the best one to be using for that as an example. And then we have here our arpeggiator and our drum track. So every single sound has its own sort of default drum track. And that starts on as soon as the first note is activated in any sound. So as we scroll through, we have different categories here. We have our pianos, electric pianos. That's a bright electric piano and pad. So we have something like that. We also have 2 controls on top of the mod wheels, which I know are out of shot at the moment. Each sound has its own dedicated effect that goes with that, so it can either raise the octave or have a bit of a tremolo thing happening. And then we have the mod wheel as well, which has the pitch bend in it. And then going through, we have lots of organ sounds. These are really cool. So this is the gospel one. I apologize, I'm not a gospel player or an organ player for that matter. The bells are really pretty. These are really nice to lay on top of your beat. I don't know why that reminds me of that, but that's the gamelan set. You have your standard marimba, your vibes, your glockenspiels, and your music boxes. We have strings. Some of these are really nice and full, so if you want lush strings. Is the number 10 platinum strings. Brass, not going to go through brass, they never sound good on keyboards, so I'm just going to skip that for now. We have our pads. This is number 1, the sign pad. This is the 5th pad, so every single pad is going to add an interval of a 5th. So we have 4 finger basses, and then we have our picks. And it also comes with sub basses that are amazing for, you know, your R&B hip hop tracks. And I'm a fan of this one. Expressive feature where, depending on how hard you hit the keys, it can either be a quite muted sound or an open sound versus and then soft. So that kind of runs true with all of them. And then we have the drum kits, an urban hip hop one. And most of them are quite intuitive as to the positions of everything. So you kind of have your lower end frequencies on the white keys and more of your hi-hats and things like that on the top. And then sort of on the higher end of the keyboard, you'll find your special effects and your samples for all of them. Then we have a house kit. As a standalone unit, there's actually so much you can do. And layering and splitting is super easy. So let's say we want some piano and pads. I'll go to my first sound, layer split, so that's activated now. But at the moment, there's both sounds across the whole board. So if I just want to split it, so I choose my second sound. And I can also choose the split point, so at what note I'd like to split and whether it's lower or upper, which is really nice because sometimes I might press the wrong thing and I want it to swap from the bottom to the top. So something like that. And if you'd like to save any of the layers that you've created or the splits, you can just easily click right. And the Korg intuitively just names it after the two according to how they're positioned. So this is the decayed bass and the cross grand. Click OK. Now writing it into eternal memory and it's there. Once we have our combinations, there's a button that activates all of them. So these are the user ones. And it also has some of its own. So these are pretty cool. This is the 80s pop split. I'm going to stop that because that sounds awfully similar to a Lady Gaga song. Don't want to get copyrighted. I do apologize if this review is all over the place, but I feel like I have so much to cover and I really am super impressed with this unit and I just want to make sure that I'm doing it justice. So next what we'll do is I reckon we might get into the sequencing. 16 tracks, I'm sorry if you can't see the screen, but there are 16 different tracks that you can program at a time. And that includes a sampler and a step sequencer. So you can do that all from here. I've made a few in the past and it's a lot of fun. So I'm gonna try and do one at the moment, kind of like the Against the Clock series. If anyone watches those, please let me know. I'm absolutely obsessed. Basically they get producers and artists to create track in 10 minutes. So I'm not going to be doing it in 10 minutes, but why don't we create some sort of a hip hop thing. First I want to choose my track. So I might go into drums. Okay, I might do something like that. And I want to go back to the beginning and just record. Gives me a 2-bar count in. So I'll stop there and I'll just let it know that I want to loop it. So it's super easy just to loop and you just use this dial to go through that. Cool, and then playback. Okay, so I've just brought you in a little bit closer so you can see the screen. So now we have our basic drum beat. Now the amount of, control you have over it is pretty outstanding. The fact that by the time you need to connect it to a computer, you can already accomplish so much on this thing. So here we can see all of our tracks and we can choose. So I'm on track 3 at the moment and I want to go through a different sound. And then here we have a simple sequencer volume EQ. So say I play a track too loud and I want to just turn it down a little bit, get the mix right. Here we can quantize our beats. So I'm going to stick to high at the moment and just keep it natural and a little bit more laid back. And we can also control what each of the mod wheels do. We can loop the whole track or we can loop the whole sequence. And the envelopes as well, the attack, decay, sustain and release. We can also detune it. So say one of the bass tracks sounds a little bit too sharp, then we can change that. And we can also transpose in a different key. So I'm going to go down and choose my second track. I reckon we might do a little bit of a filthy bass. Let's Let's try this as an octave Moog bass. So without any editing of the track, I'm just going to use that as is. And you can see the little diagrams change according to what kind of track it is. If it's a guitar, it's a synth. The synth picture is really cute. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, record, and now we've armed the track. Now, I don't like that because I accidentally played it in the wrong key. So what I'm going to do is chuck on the menu button, track edit. And from measures 1 to 4 in track 2, I want to press function and erase track. And now it's back to being empty. So I'm going to arm it again. I'll stop recording. I'm going to be happy with that, I think. Cool, and I reckon we just lay down some simple chords. So I'll go into my electric piano. Let's get one with a bit of a phaser. Let's go with that. I can change the instrument. So say we keep it playing. And you never know what might happen. I actually like the Celesta. It kind of gives it a cool, childish sort of vibe. Cool, and I'll just turn that one down right from the start because I know it's going to be a little bit too thick. And look at the cute little synth picture. Okay. Of course, we can change the filters on these at any given point, so we can increase the attack or the release or the reverb. I like to save, we're going to hit the global media shift and global media twice, and we can save it into here. But at the moment I don't have an SD card in. I'm using it for this camera, so yeah, that's where it would go. Okay, so I'm going to take you to this part of the keyboard now where we have our step sequencer drum machine. I like these because it gives you easier access to create a really quick beat. This is where all your samples will also be held in the different categories. So there's 8 different banks where you can store your samples. So in that same sequence that we were just working on, I'm in the step sequencer track. So I'm going to go into shift and set up, and now we have on the screen here all of the different clicks. So we've got a kick, our snares, our hi-hats, and our crashes. Let's set one up. So at the moment we have 4 kicks, so if I press run, we're going to hear it. Just increase the tempo a little bit. And I can also change the type of drum kit that it is. So this is the rock kit. Good, now we're rocking. So yeah, something like that. You just choose a type of kit and it automatically loads up the default kicks and the snares, which you can of course change as well. So if you don't like a particular snare, you can change that. And then you can record that straight into your sequencer. One thing I forgot to mention as well is the weight of the keys. These are really nicely weighted. I would say they're in between, you know, your semi-weighted keys and a fully weighted Yamaha or Roland. So they feel really nice and heavy and sturdy, even though the whole keyboard is about 12 kilos. So it's a really lightweight keyboard. If you haven't watched my previous video on the STUDIOLOGIC NUMA Compact 2, I think the biggest difference is of course the weight of the keys. So if you're someone who is coming from an acoustic, like a pianist background, I would highly recommend transitioning into something like this if you're looking for an electric piano, synth, workstation, whatever you want to call it. But for your basic editing, programming, sequencing, sampling, that sort of stuff, it's got everything you might need, while remaining a heavily weighted keyboard, full size, but still lightweight to carry, which is really important to me. So I might leave you with a little tune. Let me know if you recognize this one. And I hope you guys enjoyed this quick demo. Please give it a like and a subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.